The U.S. is wrapped up in retail following Black Friday and the official start to the holiday shopping season. But Walmart is not feeling the holiday cheer, or is it? Steve Previs of Jeffries International joins us with a look ahead to the trading today. Steve, good morning.
Good morning.
You're actually paying attention to the Barty deal as opposed to the weaker sales that we've seen out of Walmart.
Well, it's a bull market, isn't it? And everybody's focusing on the good news. The bad news is Walmart's sales are slowing. The good news is they've done a deal right under Tesco's nose with Barty Group in India, and they've been given entree into a potentially massive market. So, yeah, I think the stock might be a little bit weak initially, but as people look at the numbers going forward for the potential there, I think the stock will rise a little bit.
Well, let's talk about that going forward, because doesn't the trend that we've seen in the decline last month, even though shoppers are out and boom, indicating that we're seeing shoppers going for more higher-end department stores and retailers as opposed to Walmart?
Well, that's the superficial look. I think when people get down to looking in their wallets, they decide Walmart might be the best place for their value. The thing you have to remember about these retail sales on Black Friday is even though they were up 6%, it's easy to give stuff away at deep discounts. It's hard to sell it at the sticker price. And I think that's what we really need to focus on, is the quality of those retail sales. What were the margins like? How did these companies do overall? Looking at the overall quality of the merchandise that they sold and those margins, that's going to be the important thing to focus on.
Steve, this is Maura here in Asia. What about the data coming out this week, both on the economic front and corporate front as well? Which ones are you looking at most closely?
I think the Chicago Purchasing Managers is going to be an awfully important one. People are going to be looking to see if there is some trend in weakness or some trend in strength in the economy. And I think this is one of those numbers that could give you a good insight into that. Apart from that, I think people are going to be focused on the holiday season. I think it's going to be pretty choppy trading, pretty volatile, and this rally's getting a little bit long in the tooth right now, so I'd be a little bit careful. Like I said last week, if I had nice profits made, I'd be willing to bank some of those, but I wouldn't be counting on this thing just keep going like it is. Remember, this is the fourth longest period in the history of the U.S. stock market without a 10% correction.
Steve, we also just heard from Paul Churchill that he does expect the dollar to continue to weaken into Christmas from against the euro. Do you think that momentum will impact any other asset classes?
Well, I'll tell you, take a look at the precious metals. They've taken off to the upside on the back of this dollar drop. We're coming into a cyclical bottom for gold, and it rises going into December, January, so that might be the reverse of the dollar fall. Apart from that, I think one thing people who are dollar-based need to focus on is the Amero. That's the one thing that nobody's talking about that I think is going to have a big impact on everybody's life in Canada, the U.S., and Mexico. If you Google it, you'll find out all about it.
Well, you could tell us a little bit more right now.
You always hear it on CNBC, don't you? The Amero is the proposed new currency for the North American community, which is being developed right now between Canada, the U.S., and Mexico to make a borderless community, much like the EU, and the dollar, Canadian dollar, U.S. dollar, and the Mexican peso replaced by the Amero.
You really think that will get any leeway?
You may want to visit a couple of websites and see how far along it is. The Canadians are pretty upset about it, whereas the Americans, apart from the Texans, are the only people who know anything about it. The rest of the public's really sort of with their head in the sand on this one.
Okay, interesting. I mean, we've already got NAFTA, the free trade zone, isn't? I mean, is that working? Is that doing enough?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's created a lot of illegal immigrants come across the border. I don't know. You get the pros and cons on this thing. NAFTA, for some people, is a very good thing. For other people, it's been a disaster. And I think this is one way that the politicians are trying to work themselves out of what potentially could be a disastrous situation going forward.
Steve, we've just seen futures reverse course. We're indicating a lower open this morning. What do you predict for trading today, and what are you looking for this week as we have investors coming back from the holidays?
Well, like I said, usually at this time of the year it's very thin. If you have a couple of big players in the market, they can move it with the futures. You will see big buy and sell programs as people even out positions. Hedge funds certainly will be big players here. But the one word is volatility. I think you can see pretty big swings in the market, especially when the volume thins out. That's when you have to be careful.
Steve, thanks so much for joining us. Steve Previs, Senior Vice President at Jeffries International.